The U.S. debt now at $40 trillion, an all-time record and a bad record. No one should be happy about it in this country. Whatever your political persuasion, it's not a good thing. Trump did not acknowledge it. Instead, he wanted to talk about something else, his latest renovation project. This time, specifically, it was the driveway at the White House.
We got rid of the asphalt here, and this is granite. It's called a flawless granite. We get the best stuff. One thing I know how to do is build. And so we put a brand new face on the front of the White House on the ground. The cars will pull up, and this is what should have, as opposed to the asphalt, which was literally, they had potholes in it. It's ridiculous the way this place was taken care of. Nobody, including other presidents, they didn't see it. But I see it because I was very good at real estate, like maybe the best in a lot of ways. And I love construction. I love seeing things properly taken care of.
From there, he went on about the new helipad that's under construction at the White House as well.
I felt it was too much slope. It's a slope for the rain, but I felt it was too much slope. And again, this is mostly going to be for helicopters, a lot of use. With the bigger helicopters, the more powerful helicopters, literally this grass would be ripped out by its roof and by its roots. And in one landing, the entire grass was gone. So now with the helipad, we won't have any problem with the grass.
Trump, look, $40 trillion of debt, but look, we all like good grass, and Trump really seems to care about the grass because he's redoing it too.
This has all been redone. It's all been topsoiled. In other words, we put topsoil, brand new earth on top. Lot of good ingredients in that earth for grass. If you're grass, you're very happy.
It's a lot of detail. Trump likes to talk about that detail, about his projects at the White House and across Washington, right? Reflecting pool, other things. The New York Times' Maggie Haberman told Axios that 70% of President Trump's mind share, maybe plus or minus 5%, goes to his gilding, construction, renovation, renaming, and tribute projects. And a Washington Post analysis found that, I think Maggie's spot on, Trump talked about his construction projects 79% of the days in the month of June. Nearly 4 out of every 5 days of the month. That's what he talked about. Obviously, you've got an affordability crisis. You've got $40 trillion of debt, something everybody can agree is a really bad thing. You've got a war going on. You got a lot of things going on. But, we're talking about these other things. And the project that Trump talks about the most, actually, if you look at it, is the ballroom. And he did bring it up again today. But there was a bit of a twist.
Right over there, if you notice, is where the ballroom and military complex will be.
So it's not just the ballroom, it's the ballroom and military complex. Now, it did not start out this way, okay? Trump has talked a lot about this ballroom. A lot of airtime has gone to this. And here is how he's described that project. When it first came out, he was very specific. Here he is.
We are going to make and build a ballroom.
We have a beautiful ballroom.
A magnificent ballroom.
A big ballroom. Beautiful ballroom.
But something happened along the way. Public opinion soured. People did not like talk about the ballroom. They did not like it. It seemed self-serving. It seemed pomp and circumstance. They just didn't like it. A recent CNN poll, 58% of Americans were dissatisfied or angry about Trump's projects, his pet projects overall. So it shifted. It became not just a ballroom.
It's a very military complex. It's a tremendous military complex, a beautiful military complex and a ballroom combination.
That's an interesting rebrand of the ballroom. And part of the reason for this may be because the ballroom is tied up in the courts, which have said the construction needs to stop this week. But according to the New York Times, Trump has enlisted a team of 250 workers to push ahead with the construction 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, to complete as much work as quickly as possible, basically to make the argument that the project is too far along to be stopped at this point. By the way, how much does all this cost, right? All this fancy granite and the grass and all these things. The project itself, the ballroom, could cost taxpayers nearly $1 billion. It's just $1 billion, right, that America doesn't have, right? Back to where we started. The national debt just reached $40 trillion. Kristen Holmes is out front live outside the White House. And Kristen, the U.S. is in the middle of a war, midterms less than 3 months away. Is there anyone telling Trump that focusing on these pet projects the way that he does might not be the best thing?
Republican advisors, White House officials, allies, just Republicans running for office, re-election in the fall, have all been begging the White House, begging President Trump to stay focused and stay on message. They don't want him talking about the war. What they want him talking about is affordability, is the issues that Americans every day care about. And that is something that they have brought in new people to help kind of try to guide the messaging. But what we've seen so far is that this is what President Trump wants to focus in. This is what he likes. One of the things that he said today was, "I love construction." That's not the first time he said it. We also know he is intimately involved in all of this, despite the ongoing war, despite the fact that his poll numbers are in the tank right now. He is talking about, when he was out there today, covering up potholes, where stanchions were going to be placed, the exact specific type of granite. We know that he has had conversations on the ballroom in between other meetings that he is having about policy or about the war. So right now, President Trump just can't seem to help himself when it comes to these pet projects. And it clearly is part of what he believes his lasting legacy will be on D.C. But I would also argue at this time that if this war continues on the way it is currently going with no end in sight, that's going to end up being what his legacy is.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much, live from the White House. And Patrick Murphy and Adam Kinzinger are out front now. Patrick, the national debt hit a record $40 trillion tonight. The president responsible for more than that, more of that in his terms than any other, of course, is this one. You've got the war going on, and yet Trump, you can see how much he enjoys talking about those other things. He knows the details. He likes the details. He likes talking about that. 70% of his mind share, 79% of his talk time in the month of June. What does this say?
I mean, this says that he cares more about the reconstruction and renovations than he does, Aaron, for our foundations and the path that he's putting our country in. The Big Beautiful Bill is an example that added $3.4 trillion to our debt. $40 trillion. That means every man, woman, and child in America, including our kids, owes $120,000 of that national debt. And every year of that $40 trillion, we spend $1 trillion on the interest of that national debt. It's not good. And he's focused on these renovations as compared to the foundation. He's focused not on the 50,000 troops that we surged in the Middle East, 18 of which gave the ultimate sacrifice. Not on the affordability crisis, where a gallon of gas is about $1 more than when he took office to now. And not on helping everyday American families, because now they're struggling at their kitchen tables about what's going on in America when he's focused on ballrooms.
And the types of granite. I mean, he was talking about the driveway, Adam, and I played a little bit of what he had to say. He had a lot more to say when he was talking about it with reporters today. Here he is.
It's a very strong stone. It will never break. It will never leak. This is the highest quality stone you can get. It has a 1,000,000-year life. Can you imagine that? It's really pretty amazing. And it's a very special stone.
Adam, you know, we live in a different world than we lived in not long ago, right? So people, you know, pay attention to what they want to pay attention to, right? But how odd is it to hear this from him right now, just to, all the other context aside? This is a sitting wartime president.
Yeah, it's crazy. But listen, I want to posit another theory on top of all the why he focuses on this. So obviously, you know, he's a builder, you know, he wants to leave a legacy, all that. But I also think, have you ever sat at your desk and you had so much to do that you pull out your phone and start scrolling Instagram, right? Or, you know, you do something that is because you just feel so far behind that you revert to the one thing you can control, which is scrolling through Instagram. I also see that, by the way, I've seen that in military leaders, the ones that do things like focus on whether you've shaved close enough or what your uniform looks like, are the ones that are actually the worst leaders for the most part, because they have to retreat to what they can control. And I think there's part of the president right now, he'll never admit it, he may not even consciously realize it, but part of him is out of control, recognizes he's losing this war that he promised was already over. The economy's in a bad place. The national debt, I mean, we could literally zero out the military. People need to understand this. We could zero out the United States military and everything we spend on foreign aid, and we're still in a deficit like greater than we've been in for the vast majority of our years. And I think he's just reverting to what he can control. He's out of control. I can control putting a new helipad in. The other weird thing is just Trump actually thinks we care about his comfort, right? When he had this new bribed jet from Qatar that came out and he took everybody on a tour and they sent out pictures of how plush it was. I think they literally think we're going to be impressed that the president lives in comfort. That is the opposite of what the United States of America was founded on. We don't have a king. We want the president to be well fed, well taken care of, well protected and comfortable, but not to live in plush surroundings. And I think they've completely lost the plot here, which is why he's at a 33% approval rating.